Yo, welcome to This Can't Be Adulting, the podcast where two guys who probably should have it all figured out absolutely don't.
Careers, money, relationships. No one handed us a manual, so we're figuring it out the only way we know how, with real talk, deep dives, and a whole lot of laughs.
I'm Herb.
And I'm Derek. And if you're out here wondering, am I doing this right? Trust us, you're not alone.
So hit play, relax, and let's figure this out together.
Yo, what it do, everyone? Welcome to the This Can't Be Adultin podcast, man. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
And I'm Herb.
How we doing, everyone? Hey, I'm excited to be back. Hey, for the day ones, a couple weeks ago, man. You still here watching? You a real one.
Yo, we done made it 3 weeks.
You're definitely a real one. Yeah, we done made that 3 weeks, man. I appreciate y'all who watched and listened to last week's episode. We talked about a lot. It was a little lengthier. We'll try to be a little more cognizant of that.
We'll bring you back.
Bring it back. We learning here. Also, real quick, I want to shout out our shirts right here. I'm wearing a Gryffindor shirt. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. So if you want to make fun of me, by all means, poke fun. But grown men can like Harry Potter and Harry Potter world. What shirt you got on, bro? What's going on over here, dog?
Talk about a little bit of the universe and our love for the space and a little bit of astronomy. So yeah, I got a little exploration over here. So you get a little see the universe, see our solar system here.
Yeah,
good. So.
There we go. We trying to play to our passions a little bit and our nerdy geek stuff.
A little bit here.
There we go. Herb, how you been since the last episode? How's life been treating you?
Man, it's not bad. I will say I'm somewhat of a religious person, so the return of Jesus last week was nice. I say that facetiously.
We out. So a whole nother discussion we're gonna have in another conversation.
A whole nother discussion. But yeah, I was ready for the return of Jesus. So yeah, all of you that celebrated Easter last week, shout out to you.
Big shout out to y'all too, man. I used to go to church a lot, but when I was younger, and needless to say, I don't do that. So topic for another day, but excited about what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, right.
So I think this is going to resonate for a lot of people because, as they say, this topic makes the world go round.
Yeah, some of us need Jesus when we talk about that.
Yeah. Money. How do we spend it? Man. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Mm-hmm. So we got some thoughts on that we thought, I'm being redundant with thought there, but I mean, we're sitting here about to be 40. I'm going to reiterate this every episode because that's the whole point we're bringing this to the millennials and the upcoming Gen Zers. And just for this, like the money habits and how money has been viewed, not just in society, but in our lives, how we grew up to understand money. I think it's a really important topic. So I'm going to kick it over to you, Herb. Growing up, what did you learn about money and how it works? And what did you wish you had actually known? Let's start there.
All right. So the first answer to your question is going to be really simple and short. Nothing.
You learned about money.
That was not something that I would say that in my household wasn't discussed. Like money wasn't discussed. And I would say I think that's something that a lot of people in our culture maybe went through. Was that you didn't sit and have those money discussions. You didn't learn about money. You didn't understand, for me, like the importance of having good credit, the importance of saving, how to save. Like everybody say like save your money, but like okay, good. Like how do I save it?
Right.
What do I need to save it? Like and it's like just those, like even just the fundamentals of how money works. How to budget money, good money practices, good money discipline, good money habits, I would say is something that I didn't necessarily learn. And I think, and unfortunately, it's something to be learned. It's not a natural skill to be good with money. That's something that you have to be taught. That's a discipline that comes. It's a skill that's involved into it. So unfortunately, I didn't learn those things. The things I wish I would have learned about money, just the basic fundamentals of the importance of your credit score and how to even understand it, what good credit looks like, what not to get, even what's good debt, what's bad debt, understanding assets and what is an asset, and just the basic fundamentals of money and finances. I wish something I would have learned, and then just the big things I wish I would have learned, just how to budget, how to save, how to invest. You talk about like that next level of it is like investing. That would have been awesome. So I think that's to answer the first part is I didn't learn. I would say I grew up very financially illiterate, and it took a lot of trial, a lot of error, and it's taking a lot of trial and still a lot of error to learn and try to develop good money habits for myself. How about you?
Man, God, we can literally do 3 hours on this topic because I got so many thoughts on it. Before I even go into me and what I learned and what I didn't learn, what I wish I learned versus what I do know, any of that shit, what you're speaking to is a very deep issue in America, and it's financial literacy. Mm-hmm. Because we get taught in school, and the curriculums teach us to be good worker bees, but they don't teach us how to actually make money.
Nope.
And how to create wealth, not just for yourself, but generational wealth.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the reality is that is a problem amongst Black and brown communities in this country. We don't have that knowledge because it was never taught to us because the powers that be don't want us to know and still don't want us to know what the situation is. That's why they don't teach it in common public education, right?
That's the reason.
That's why the wealthiest people in the world, and mostly come from America. Actually, they're not being ignorant. There's a bunch of other people in other countries. But for the sake of this conversation, we're talking about the United States of America, are wealthy, just white people. Yeah. And, there's always that conversation, they pulled themselves by the bootstraps and blah, blah, blah. There was a level of knowledge that was passed on to them by parents, by family, by some sort of mentor in some way, shape, or form that we didn't have.
Right.
I grew up to immigrant parents who didn't know the American financial system at all. And so the only thing that I was taught was don't spend money you don't have.
Yep.
Which was a very huge, massive lesson that I definitely learned. And I appreciate that because my parents, specifically my dad, was very frugal. And he always told me, if you don't have the money, don't spend it. And where did that help? That helped when I got my first credit card. Because my dad said, I'm going to give you a credit card because you need to build credit because credit is going to help you buy a house in the future.
Yep.
I was like, oh, okay. He's like, but what I'm going to tell you right here is whatever you put on that credit card, make sure you pay it off by the end of the month. So that means that the credit card isn't used just to use it just so willy-nilly like a lot of people in this country do because they don't realize the repercussions to your point of where credit is. And I'm super grateful for that because it allowed me the opportunity to build my credit in an amazing way. I have fantastic credit. I have white people credit. So that's
the fact you call it that.
It is white people credit. It's crazy white people credit. And that was definitely due from my dad. With that said, that's all. There was nothing else. Not even the whole savings thing. That wasn't even really a conversation or discussion to have. Investments, beyond. My parents still don't necessarily are starting to learn that now because they finally got a financial advisor.
Yeah.
Because they retired.
Right.
And I was telling them, you need to get a financial advisor. I say that it was me, but my dad was actually ahead of the game. Good for him on that. But like to have that when you were younger, like knowing the shit that I know about money now and that I wish I would have been able to put in place right when I graduated college is insane. And I didn't know
that we could have had during that time. I mean, I guess it can go both ways because we kind of came out during that subprime, the whole
mortgage crisis, the housing financial breakdown in 2008.
Right. But again, the opportunities that we applied great, money, or we had that type of that wherewithal, we could have invested.
Yep.
Could have bought homes and things like that. So I think, not to cut you off there, but I think that, coming out of that time right there, as you mentioned, like, we had great opportunities. Had we known about investing, so had somebody taught us about investing, that would have been something that would have been very right now.
I think it's safe to say, Herb, you and I have made a lot of money in our lives.
Yeah, more so than I thought it would. Yeah.
Whatever it made.
Yeah.
And I sit here at 39, being fully transparent. I feel like, and this isn't necessarily true, but I feel like I should have more to show for it.
Oh, great. Absolutely.
I really do. Now, with that said, I got lucky. I have a house, and it's an asset, right? In terms of when we're talking about now assets and liabilities and whatnot, I got my house. That's an asset. Some people might call it a liability because it's taking money from me on a monthly basis. But at the end of the day, if I sell my house, I have a surplus of money.
Yeah, we don't have to get into like,
yeah,
you got to ask.
Yeah. But given all the money that I'm like, yo, I could have had so much more saved up. I could have invested. I could have opened up a high yield savings account. All these things that I'm just learning as of the past couple of years. I just opened up my first high yield savings account in August.
Okay.
In August.
Okay.
So that means now I have a bunch. That's all my savings now, and it's making me money.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing anything.
Yep.
It's making me more money than I had in my regular Bank of America savings account that was not giving me any interest.
Yeah.
And it's like shit that like it's not difficult to understand.
Yeah.
But no one ever told me.
Right.
So it's like shit like that where I'm like I could be doing somewhere now. With that said, I believe life happens for a reason, and I went on trips. I fucking partied downtown. We had fun. Like I had a lot of shit that like was cool, but like. Now I'm sitting here in a situation where I want to transition and get out of my job, and I wish I just had more saved up so that I could have a little breathing room to take some time off.
Yep.
And so it's a bit of a regret, but then I sit back and it's like, was it really my fault when we weren't given that financial literacy, especially us growing up in Black and brown communities? But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that, and I think this is part of being adulting is like, I feel like, in every person's life, there comes a time where you do, you have that turning point where you go from being a child, adolescent, to becoming, an adult. And it's not necessarily that there's a point or some specific time that you could point to that say that happened. I'm just going to say like part of becoming an adult is like being, I think I would say just getting better and having, learning things that you didn't know, understanding, one of the biggest things about being an adult is like what I know is, like what are you self-awareness we talked about last episode, like how you become more self-aware, and not only just, maybe socially, but also self-aware of your finances. And if you don't learn those things growing up, it'd be great if I did learn those things growing up. However, the funny thing for me where I did learn these things, and I know we talked about in the last episode, kind of me not having necessarily friendships outside of my family, but the things obviously is having relationships, and the girls I've dated, full disclosure, I've, predominantly been white girls, and
I'm sorry, because I wanted to say it. I did it, and then Herb just said it. Dude, read my mind.
But I'll attribute this to like a girlfriend I had in college, and like this was the first time I went and saw like and I'm just gonna speak blunt here. It was the first time I went and saw white people that had money, and I was like, man, this is.
Because you grew up in Arkansas. In Arkansas, there's everyone's kind of the same.
Everyone's kind of the same, blue collar. Even like for me, I was even like I grew up in a 2-parent household. My parents financially did really well. Like like in the 90s, they were making, both of them were making 6 figures back in the 90s. So like they were doing really well. So money it's so funny. I didn't learn about money, but I never had to worry about money. And I think that's one of the things that was a crutch for me, is that I've never had to worry about money or worry about getting money or worry about having money. I always had access to it through my parents, which is a huge crutch, or it just happened. So I didn't learn about like the value of earning $1, saving $1, keeping $1, budgeting $1, the whole don't spend money that you don't have.
Right.
That mine could have been the complete opposite. It could have been just spend it, damn it, I can go get it from my parents. Like that's
really.
So
interesting.
Where I first learned about money and saw people that had money and saw like started seeing like financial literacy stuff was like dating girls. And I like dated a girl in college who came from a very affluent family, and her dad was like a CIO of some bank or something. Anyways. And I remember the first time I like going to their house, they had like a 10,000 square foot house, and growing up,
Jesus Christ,
they had like a wing off to the side for the like they actually built the house next to or attached to their house that was for their grandmother or whatever, with a full house, and then like they had a storage for their ATV and UTV vehicles that was, I guarantee you, it was at least 1,200 square. Like it was bigger than the houses that I grew up in.
Right.
Their storage for their toys was bigger than the house that I grew up in Arkansas.
Yeah,
so
right.
That's where I started to kind of like first time like getting experience, like seeing somebody like, whoa, this is with money. And I remember one time her mom was just happened to be reading off the credit card bill, and it was something like $10,000. And I was like, what? And she was just said it like nothing, like, oh, the credit card bill. And her dad was just like, all right, just pay the bill. And like, it was just, to me, like that just blew my mind, to be like, whoa, like these people have this is what money looks like. Like, this is what first time seeing like real money. But it also helped like hearing her dad, hearing how she went about money. You would have never known that they had money, because where I came from, if I grew up where I grew up, if someone was in the same situation that her family was in, it would have been well known and flaunted. Where for them, you would have never known. Like, they drove regular vehicles.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
They wasn't flashy. It wasn't like the stuff that they were spending their money on. It didn't come off as like the things that I know coming through where I came from. Like, back, especially in the early 2000s, like that was a dope boy era. Like, it was flash money, throw it, like that was that. And then I remember just seeing like their cars and stuff. I'm like, man, all this money and y'all don't drive. Like, why ain't they got Lamborghinis or stuff like that? And that's like understanding like how they thought about money, how diligent she was with money, budgeting, sitting down, writing it out. And like, that was the first time I saw those type of habits and started to get an understanding. Like, damn, I don't know anything about money.
So question: did that family always come from money though?
No.
So that, like, her dad was just the first one that really got money.
Yep,
Okay,
yep,
that's
yep,
interesting.
yep.
Because I was gonna say, because normally if you come from a family or from a community that historically doesn't have money, and you come across a big thing of money, you're not really gonna know what to do. You're just gonna act up. So I was thinking maybe they had come from money, so they had learned through generations like this is how you manage money. But I think there's also a level of how you get your money too.
Yes.
That contributes to how maybe you manage it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's super interesting. So would you say that experience started helping you think differently about how you manage your money?
No, because I would say it didn't change my bad habits.
I still acted the fuck up.
I still did that. But it just opened my mindset to that was the first time I saw what real money looks like and how real money behaves compared to what I thought it would look like in my head and how I thought it would behave based on like where I came from.
Understood. Okay, yeah, understood. Yeah, I find it interesting too, because growing up, the money conversation was a conversation about having a nice house. And that was really it. It was just like having a nice house and not living in an apartment in a lower socioeconomic city or town.
Yeah.
And it was like, when you get the nice house, you've made it. But that was what it revolved around. It wasn't really anything more. It wasn't, again, generational wealth. Yeah. It wasn't have your money make money for you. It wasn't any of that. It was like, oh, you can just buy a nice house. Like, that was really it. Yeah. So it was very one-dimensional. Okay. As opposed to what money really is now, which is, 5, 6, 7 dimensional. Like, there's so many different things that you should and can be doing with money. Go ahead.
I was going to say, do you think that's even changed now? Is it not money almost like, is it still just buying a house?
No.
Now, this might be like the start of it. I feel like that. Robert Kiyosaki has the book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I think the whole rat race is, getting into like acquiring. The premise of the book, I would say, is about acquiring assets and limiting debts or liabilities.
Right. Yep.
So, is it not still the same thing? Just like acquire an asset, buy a house, but also buy another investment property.
See, but that's the difference. Very different. Yeah. And now that's about making your money make money for you again and buying more property. So no, today that's not what it is for me. Today, the way I think about money is completely different. Today, I have a small brokerage account that I have open too, that I throw money in there so that I can make money off the markets. It's clearly tanking right now, but it's okay. I don't throw that much in there. I'm okay with the money that I lose. I have a high yield savings account as well.
So, yep.
I've got my house. Right, that's appreciating and building more money from that perspective too. I'd love to buy another property, right? So these are the things that I have in mind. But for me, what the most important thing is, and why I want to make even a good amount of money at all, which it's a tough situation, because I also want to do meaningful, impactful work that will probably mean less money. But my biggest concern now is just retirement.
Okay.
Right? Because now we're nearing 40. It's about, I don't want to work until I'm fucking 85. Like, I want to hit 62 and still have money in my 401k. Again, a conversation I never even knew about retirement savings either. Like 401k, have money in my own savings, in my own brokerage investment account through properties and assets, so that I can retire and not have to work the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And have everything there. Like, That's what it's about for me now. Whereas when I was younger, it was just like, oh, just get yourself a nice house for your family and you're good. It wasn't about buying more properties. It wasn't about anything. And it's just you open your world, you open your eyes, and your world opens up when you leave, right? When you leave wherever you grew up. And maybe that's not for everyone, but like at least where I grew up, like that just wasn't a conversation that was being had because most of the time, and again to your point, I was lucky that I never had to worry about having a warm plate of food, or I had to worry about like having a roof over my head. My parents didn't make much, but we made enough to have those things. So I would never consider myself poor in any way, shape, or form. But at the time for them, that's what it was about. It was about, can we pay the bills? Can we pay rent? And can we put food on the table? That was really it. Now, they started thinking, can we buy a house? Sure. And they bought the house, and then that was it. That was to the extent of what was going on.
Yeah,
and
they made it.
They made it from that perspective. I'm thankful that my parents ended up having good 401k and stuff like that. So they ended up, but again, I think a lot of those things they started really learning once I got older.
Yeah.
Not actually as a child. Once I got into college and stuff like that, they're like, okay, he's out of the house. Okay. Oh, we should start thinking about what we're going to do with our future. And I think they really started putting some.
But your parents go back, they're first generation.
First generation in this country.
Right. So I think this maybe is like a situation where, y'all both were learning at the same time.
Correct.
Like they
Correct.
couldn't teach you something they didn't know either.
Correct. Well, that's my point with this whole, with that story and the situation is that we also need to realize that in this country, it's true. People get a head start. If this is a race,
Yeah.
people start. If this is a race and it's a football field, some people start on the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
About to score.
Yeah.
A lot of us start at the freaking end zone, and I wouldn't even say I started at the other end zone. I say I started maybe at the 5-6 yard line.
Yep.
Or if you want to call it 10 yard line, but like that's the difference. And so this conversation a lot of people love to have about like pull yourself up by the bootstraps and just work hard, and it's like, yo, my parents worked their asses off.
Yeah.
They're not millionaires.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't tell me that just because someone has millions of dollars, they worked harder than my parents, or that they worked harder than your parents.
Yep.
Like that's just not how it works. It's not about hard work.
Oh, well.
It's about the opportunities. It's about the knowledge that's instilled in you. It's about where you start in life. Yes, you could start at the end zone and be a millionaire. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but like that doesn't happen often.
Right. That's the exception.
That's the exception. Mm-hmm. That's not the rule.
Yes.
But anyways, I don't know if you have any more thoughts on that.
I was gonna say like you had mentioned like saying your parents and y'all kind of learning at the same, or I was kind of mentioning like everybody's kind of learning at the same time. One of the things that for me that I wish that, again, I grew up for a large family, and there within that family there's people that are doing better than some, and there's some that's doing not as well as others, but it's a lot of blue collar. For the most part, my grandmother instilled in our family like hard work ethic. The value of being able to take care of yourself, grow up, get a job, you're independent. Like that was the goal. Get out the house, you can live on your own. And I think that was kind of the goal with them. Like my that my grandmother gave to my aunts and uncles and my mom as well. So I feel like they got to that point and they reached their goals. But I think the thing that we could have really leveraged having a large family and having a lot of people that are some doing well, some doing well, is that we don't talk about money as a family, and we miss that opportunity because I think there are people I know there are people within our family that are very great with budgeting. They're very disciplined. They have a lot of knowledge to pass on. Maybe they can't pass it on to the older generation, but I would love to see that to be passed on to our younger, my younger cousins, so that they can get an understanding, so that they don't have to grow up, with the same illiteracy financially that I would say I grew up with. And that's something that I look at, as I've gotten older, trying to, be better about maybe having those type of conversations with family members and trying to give them like what little, I don't want to say opinions around finances that I may have that I've, through experience. So that's something I feel like, we miss in our culture, is that we have people that are doing well, maybe even in our circle, but they're not sharing that knowledge with other people in the circle. And I don't know if that's necessarily, I don't think it's because of not wanting to share that knowledge. I think it's mainly to do with just not thinking that anybody would want that knowledge or care about it. And I think that couldn't be part of the truth.
I think you're spot on, but I'm going to tell you what it is. Talking about money is very taboo.
Very.
Talking about money and talking about how much you make, how you manage your money is very taboo. And the reason for that is because people People misconstrue it as being cocky, as being overconfident. And you've ever heard, oh, we don't talk about money in this household. They're like, oh, I can't ask you how much you make. Like,
Yep.
and that's such a bizarre thing. And that is why so many people are behind the 8 ball.
Yep.
Because we don't, to your point, we should be having these conversations. This is such a good point because I was listening to a podcast. I listened to this podcast called 10% Happier, and they did a New Year's series about like New Year's resolutions and like what are the New Year's resolutions everyone has, and just like diving into if you actually want to follow this. So they did one on fitness because everyone's New Year's resolution is I'm going to get in better shape. I'm going to be better, healthier. I'm going to be better financially. So they did an episode on financial. They did 2 episodes on finances, and they brought this one lady in. I can't remember her name. We'll put the a link to that podcast in the notes on this here on YouTube and on Spotify, so you guys can see it once I find it. But she was a Dominican economist, and the entire podcast she was talking about how we need to talk about money more and more and more. Yep. Don't make it a taboo subject. Talk about it with your friends, and it's something you have to talk about with your significant other and your spouse. If you're not having that conversation about like, hey, we need to talk finances, and not in the sense of like, hey, how are we going to budget? Yes, that's important, but like, how much are you making? Can you make more? And she says, I do money dates with my friends where we're like, let's go have some wine and let's talk about what we're doing with our money. And let's talk about best practices. Because to your point, someone has probably already experienced maybe a hardship that you're having or something coming into, like buying a house. I know you've had this conversation with me when you're like, yo, I don't even, how the fuck would I buy a house? Yo, I didn't fucking know. Yep. I had no idea. I wish outside of my realtor, like I wish I would have known a little bit better. There was things that I didn't know. Like I didn't know that I could take a first home buyer loan out of my 401k and not get penalized for it. There was like all this shit that I had no idea that if I would have known earlier, I would have done earlier.
You're taking advantage of those.
If I would have just been open with this conversation, but it's taboo. I've got friends that it's like, again, you get a job and like, it's not that I want to brag, but but it's insightful for people to know, all right, this is how much I'm making at my job, 15 years. Like, go get that money if you deserve it. Like, if you're not getting that much money, like I am getting that much money, so you can go get that money. You can go ask for it. It's not like a bragging thing, but it's like, okay, salary transparency type of a thing too. Yeah. But I do think it's a huge taboo subject in a lot of circles and communities.
No, I think you want to spot on because even for me, like, again, getting away from my family, starting, have my own friends as I got adults, seeing someone like yourself, you're very disciplined with it. We have another friend of ours who was my landlord at a while. He's super disciplined, and he had no reason to be, shout out. But that was kind of like for me, like seeing y'all even speak about money, or hearing y'all talk about how disciplined you are, like hearing you even speak about like you're like, hey, I don't spend it if I ain't got it, and just hearing like how you went about your discipline with money, like that was opening to me. I'm like, damn, this is how my friends go about money. That is not the mindset I had. Them boys over here blowing it and throwing it, like I ain't got it. Oh well, we'll figure this shit out.
Right.
So like just hearing like again, getting into different circles, I think that's a huge benefit that I had for me was to be around people that I was able to like just pick up on and see different types of habits and see like discipline and things like that. So for me, and I think this a lot of people maybe from our culture may be able to attest to is that like if you're not getting it, with your if you didn't get it from your family, if you didn't get it growing up, maybe that's something that you can look at your friends around you and maybe there's somebody that you could have those conversations with. And I guarantee you, in my experience, anytime I've spoken with people or approached people about money, they've been more than willing to have that conversation, and it's never been a condescending or being like, oh, you ain't got it, I can't believe you, or you broke, people like that. I've never had nobody that experience. So I think that the biggest thing that I could do even better on my end is just be willing to have more conversations with people that that I want to learn from, and I definitely have those people in my circle, and like to become better, like financial, literate per se.
Yeah, financial literacy is something we so lack so much, and so again, people like have these conversations, and this is why we wanted to make this a topic for the podcast, because we wanted to talk about it and we wanted to be open about what we didn't know before and some of the things that we do learn. So, for example, again, I'll throw this out here again, guys. Open up a high yield savings account.
Explaining why, okay, because even as a person that like I have my little traditional savings, which anyway, I have my traditional savings, but I've never like even looked into high interest, and I hear it all the time. Like you listen to like the ads and things like that. So explain it.
High yield savings account. Right now, most banks or most institutions that provide high yield savings account are giving you a 4% return on your on whatever your balance is on a monthly basis. 4% of return on an annual basis is annual APY, annual percentage yield. It was at 5%. It's all based off of the federal interest rate. Whatever. We don't need to talk about that. The point is, you put it in there, and they pretty much guarantee you after 365 days, you will get 4% back of what you have in there.
Yep.
Okay? So just easy money. Like we're just talking about easy numbers. If you have $10,000 in that bank account the entire year, you just put $10,000 in. At the end of that 12 months, you will have won or gained $400 by doing nothing.
Yep.
$400, just chilling there.
Yep.
Now, the idea is with your savings account, you're going to be constantly putting more and more money in. And it's going to grow and grow and grow. And as it grows, you're going to get money. Now, people are like, oh, $400, bro, that's $400 you didn't have before.
Yep.
That's $400 that you're not getting in your current savings right now.
Yep.
All right. When I opened mine up, it was at 5%. But again, because the interest rates dropped a little bit, they dropped it, but it's at 4% right now. And I'm looking at it, and like I think I've made so far in the past 6 months like $278. And again, that's $270 that I wouldn't have had before. And I don't have that much in there. It's okay. I'm starting to get in there, but like, you know, I know people that have almost $1 million in there, and they're getting $2,500 a month. A month. So you do that math, extrapolate that, $2,500. That's almost $30,000 they're getting there a year.
Yep.
Right, just free money. Their money making the money.
Yep.
So it's one of those things where you find these easy ways, and this is how wealthy people get wealthy, and this is how they stay wealthy. Right. So it's one of those things. So and it costs nothing. I have my high yield savings account open with Betterment. Betterment helps me out, and I throw my money there. I have all my savings in there, and then boom, it just makes money for me.
Yep. Now I will say, like, and here's one of the things I will say, like, even for me, like thinking about money, the only reason I've gotten quote unquote better with money is because I've made more money.
True.
Like that's the only reason why. So even for me to get, like, if you're thinking about, get up to saving to where you got $1 million in a high saved, you know, that, somebody like, well, it's impossible for me to get $1 million saved considering I'm only making $30,000.
Right. Correct.
Like,
right.
How would you say that to a person? Like, how do you? Because I feel like a lot of times in our culture we're like, oh well, Derek got 10,000. Like I ain't got 10,000, so why even worry about that? Like, what's the $480? I need that right now today to pay for something or to do something, or even not even that I need it today. It's more so like short sighted. Like, well, hell, I might, if I'm gonna have $400, $80 at the end of the year, I might as well just keep the 480 and just pay for something like that.
It comes down to budgeting, and it comes down to how do you budget each paycheck. And here's what I wish I would have learned when I was younger, would have done when I was younger. I wish that right when I got my first job out of college, I would have automatically said, no matter what, 5% of my paycheck is going into a high yield saving account every single time. And when you get yourself into that habit, 5% off of $28,000, which is what I was making when I graduated from college, isn't much.
Right.
5% off of what I make now is a lot more.
Yeah, and the compound interest.
And the compound interest. So it's just about you start that habit and work with what you have. It doesn't have to be a set number. It doesn't have to be like, I'm going to throw $500 every month. Like, nah, that's probably not feasible making $30,000 a year. Yep. But if you say, I'm going to throw in 5%, that's a lot less of your paycheck, and you continue that as you graduate and get promoted into higher and more higher paying jobs, that 5% is actually going to be more tangible money.
Yep.
And at that point, it's a habit. Yeah. It's second nature. It's not even your money. You don't even think about it. It's like, oh, this money has to go in there. And so like, it is what it is. Like I've already budgeted for this. Yeah. So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah. And I think that's trying to get to is that it's all about developing the habit. Like it doesn't, because we're talking about percentages and not getting there, but the percentage doesn't matter. It doesn't change. It's going to be applied to, as the income changes, level changes, the percentage stays the same. So it's not like you have to figure that aspect out. It's just more so about developing, again, that discipline, that habit. I think that's the biggest thing that anybody could take away from anything in life, whether that's financial, getting better with your finances, getting better physically, mentally, relationships, whatever it may be, it's going to come down to discipline and applying. I think I seen someone had a manager once that said the discipline is the gap between what you want and or what you want and getting there is discipline is essentially the gap that's going to get you from what you want to what you have. So or to your goal. There's what we said, from what you want to your goal is going to be discipline. So I think that's the biggest thing, and the biggest takeaway I always look at it from internally is myself is the lack of discipline with a lot of things, and I think that's been the biggest thing for me is, again, the understanding the importance of discipline is the big thing. Developing that discipline, the second thing. And the way that I've had to learn to develop the discipline is understanding the importance of a process.
Yeah.
You talked about budgeting. We say hey, be disciplined. All right, whatever that means.
What does that mean, right?
Yeah, what does that mean?
That's just a word you're throwing around at this point.
Get better money habits. All right, okay. What exactly does that mean? I think that one of the things I would, maybe you can talk about it a little bit more. How do you go about your discipline? I know you don't spoke about it, and I would definitely say Derek's probably one of the more disciplined of our friends that I definitely have for sure. So I know this doesn't tie directly to money, but maybe this will help with the mindset of just being disciplined. How do you even go about being disciplined like that?
Yeah.
And have that what's some processes that you have to keep you disciplined?
Great question. So this is turning into look, what's the practice? And I like that. And thank you I'll take that as a compliment that I'm known as most disciplined friends. So again, it all starts with budgeting. People budget in all different ways. There are excellent books out there. There are excellent budget planners and stuff like that. I have a spreadsheet, and in that spreadsheet, I have how much each paycheck is, and then I break down between all of my monthly expenses that are recurring. So my mortgage, my HOA, home, car insurance, everything, my Netflix, everything. I have it all in there. I know exactly how much it is. I have in there what day of the month it gets extracted from my accounts. And I also have, is it being paid out of my checkings account or is it being paid out of my credit card, and what credit card? I have 3 different credit cards. That's another thing too that I wish I learned that me and her were talking about too, by the way, side tangent. Get credit cards that give you points or give you some sort of rewards, because that's also free money.
Free.
Because what I do is I have 3 different credit cards. I use my credit cards I don't use my debit cards anymore. I use my credit cards for everything, again, knowing that I have money in my debit card that I can pay in there. And then those cards get me points, and I don't touch them for a year. At the end of the year, that's my Christmas shopping money.
Okay.
So at the end of the year, between 3 credit cards, I got $1,000 in there off of points, everything, whatever the case, and that's all I need to do Christmas shopping. So I don't have to worry about setting money aside for Christmas.
Right.
So that's what I do from that perspective. But yeah, this process is I have that spreadsheet, and in that spreadsheet, I know what all my expenses are on a monthly basis, definite expenses, and then I also say how much am I going to need for the next 2 weeks to just spend and whatever it is that I want to spend and have fun with, and whatever the case is, and how much do I want to throw in my savings.
Yeah.
And so I've done that for a while. I've been much more disciplined about it the past year. And now, because given where I'm at right now, about 40% of my paycheck goes into savings in some way, shape, or form.
Damn, okay.
Straight into savings. I'm not fucking around right now. 40% of my paycheck, but I have everything else paid for, and I still have a little extra to not much. That's the part that gets tough, is the money you have left over to play with. Because I do go over a lot.
Okay.
I do go over a lot.
If you go over, would you go back into you got something like an easy access that or liquid capital that you access, just a simple savings?
It depends. When I say I go over a lot, I don't mean I go over the like a large amount that go over. It might be an extra 50, 80, 100, $150. If that's the case, then I just sit and wait for my next paycheck, and I just am more disciplined for my next paycheck. If I go over $200, then I'll pull out of my savings, which I don't like to do and I don't advise. But again, this is the whole discipline thing. But at the very least, the one thing that I've always been good at, my bills, I always have money for my bills. That's never a concern. So if I go over my spending money, it's coming out of my savings, but it's never I have a separate account for my bills, and all my money that I pay for every single bill comes out of that account. And so that's what I've been doing for a long time, man. And honestly, no one taught me that. That was just me getting organized and being okay, you have bills to pay. When I graduated college, how are you going to do this? And I don't even remember what I did at the time. I created for a while I had it in my phone and my notes and shit like that. And now I have a spreadsheet.
Now that number, your expense number, is this something that you'll know to the cent that you remember? Or is it kind of something you just kind of
that I know to a cent right now? I do know it right now to the cents in my head.
That's what I was talking about. Right?
Yeah, on a monthly basis, I know mine is.
See, here's my budgeting. I get an idea. I'm a concepts person. I'm very conceptual. Very conceptual. So I'm gonna do mine. I'll be it's about Netflix about $14.99. I'll round it up. All right, 15. All right, so then I'm paying like another 100, 110. So for YouTube TV per se. So now I'm like, all right, let me add that on. And that's kind of how I'm doing. Like, typically like rent at the end of the month, somewhere in the 17 range or something. Like, all right, and that's kind of like I'm doing mental budgeting in my head, but nothing is concrete on paper. I can't.
You don't have anything on paper and spreadsheet.
No, hell no. I'll go through I'll pull up my bank account, and every day. Every morning I look at my bank account and I'm just like looking through it and be like, well, I got enough.
Nah,
and
fuck that.
Basically, I play, do I got enough or do I got enough every single morning?
Dude's playing chicken with his bank account, bro.
Every morning.
Bro, you wild, dog. That shit gives me anxiety, dog. You crazy, dog.
That's what's so funny to me. Like, bro, if you went about it the way I went about it, bro, it'll kill you. I don't think you couldn't handle it. You could not handle the way I go about it.
Bro, I know how much money I need on the 15th of the month and on the 1st of the next month. So I have it split up by that way. And so as long as I have that much money on those days, I know I have enough money to fulfill the rest of the month. Mm-hmm. And so I'm good like that. So I never have to worry about it. I know my bills account is going to have me covered. Man, I'm chilling. That includes groceries too. I got all my groceries in there, like boom. And even my groceries don't hit the same way either. Yeah. Because every week it's different.
Yeah, it fluctuates. Yeah.
But like I budget $200 a week for groceries. Man, that's what I budget. And sometimes it's $145. Sometimes it's $235. Like depending, because I buy Choco all natural food because I spoil.
And Choco's the mascot our dog. You just see, she's not in here right
She
now.
had dinner, so she's napping now.
It's so funny because I was gonna say on that with that, man. I'm luckily the last several roles I've had have been fairly done well. So I wasn't doing the same mental gymnastics every single morning when I'm looking at it like, man, am I gonna have it? I'm not gonna have it. It's gonna be overdraft, man. Can I make it? It's the 9th. We get paid on the 15th. I'm with a credit union, so I might get mine 2 days early. I sure hope they give it to me before the weekend. I get it on Friday and not have to wait all the way till Monday on the 15th because I need it for the weekend, or else I'm not gonna have a weekend this weekend. So those type of things I was doing way too often. As I was getting into corporate America and kind of even when we were hanging out like that, in those early years, that was way too often. I was doing those types of mental gymnastics budgeting in my head. So man, just if the difference between how you were doing it and how I was doing it, although we were in the same circle, like we were living in the same situation, but our finances couldn't have been any differently, and it's just so funny to just.
That's wild.
I would love to see if you
one of the things too, and just to touch on kind of lessons learned, I did get to a point though where I took a trip to Vegas, my first trip to Vegas, and I went out there with like $2,000 or something like that, thinking like I was gonna be good. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I'll be all right, bruh. I dropped $9,000 out there, though. So 2 G's was cash, and the other 7 G's I put on my credit card. Man, that shit followed me for years, dog, because I wasn't changing my habits and I was still partying. We were still going out, and I just kept putting it on my credit card, and I didn't have enough money at the end of the week, like my spending money, and I was like, nah, I'll just put it on my credit card. It'll be the net. It got to a point where I looked at my debt, and this is the worst it's ever been. I had like $16,000 worth of credit card debt, and I was like, you need to figure your shit out. So I had to figure it out, and I had to pay it off, and I managed to pay it off within 3 months, and thankfully I did because my company at the time automatically enrolled in investing in stock by them. Okay. And so EMC, we had stock. So from the beginning, I was putting 6% into the stock. Yeah. And so I had accrued a good amount, and they had got bought out. So they were like, either you pull it out or it's going to get invested into VMware stock. And I ended up pulling it out, and that was enough to cover like it was like $11,000 or something. Yeah. And I got lucky, and then I got like a good commission check. But like after that, I was like, Never again, because I was really good with my credit up until that point. Yeah. That Vegas trip fucked me up. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not doing that again. And so now, if I ever have like more than $1,000 of debt in my credit card, I have anxiety that I don't have accounted for, that I don't know where I'm gonna get the money from. I'm fucking stressed. Damn. I'm stressed the fuck out. It can't be any more than that.
That is, I mean, bro. And again, your boy.
I pay credit cards every day, every morning. I'm on the shitter. I look at all my bank accounts, and I'm like, all right, because I just use my credit card. That's all I use to gain the points. Yep. And I'm like, all right, I dropped $25 yesterday. I'm buying snacks. Cool, boom. I transfer the money right away. Pay it right away. Because credit card companies, those interest rates are nuts.
Oh, yeah, they can get you.
19 to like 30% interest rate. And people don't realize that. People think they get credit card. That's the thing they don't learn. And they just pay the minimum payment, and you pay for the rest of your life. Because your minimum payment's going all towards interest. Yep. And so I don't fuck around like that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Credit card has gotten, besides that point in time when I had 16,000, they've gotten minimum money from me. Credit card companies hate me from that perspective because I don't give them any money on interest because I pay my shit right away.
That's so funny. The fact that you speak about, like, you would imagine somebody that's, being financially sound, making great financial decisions, that you would be the wanted customer of a credit card company. Like, nah, we want her.
Yeah.
We want her.
Give me all the credit card. Yeah.
Yo, give him the credit card. He gonna blow it up. Then he'll just pay it. He'll pay the interest. I'll pay it here. Get a commission check. Pay it off. Like, I don't even worry about paying. Like, I am a person, like, I'll carry a balance for several months, knowing, like, man, I'll just gonna have to wait till like a quarter. I get a commission check or quarterly check or whatever. Like, I got a commission. I close a deal. Like, fuck it, I'll just run it up. I'm paying it in 6 months from now when I get that commission. That's my mindset of budgeting for that type of shit. Like, man, gonna be able Derek on the shitter, like,
every morning I'm the shitter. Every morning I'm on the shitter. I'm out here. I'm paying this because I bounce back and forth between 3 credit cards. Because they each give me different credits. Rewards and points and shit like that. So again, something I learned and something that we want to bestow on you. Because this actually ended up being a much more open conversation. I wasn't expecting to really actually talk about like my budgeting, but this is good. We didn't plan this actually, guys. This is good.
This is how it flows.
And it's good. It's a lot of shit that I actually fucking learned from that perspective. And I think we just touched on this a little bit. But like, would you say today, at your ripe age of 39, are you budgeting? Are you balling? Or are you just getting by? Dun, dun, dun.
Definitely, I would say budgeting, and in this specific time and moment, and that goes back into, I think we spoke back on a couple of episodes ago. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next in my career and kind of what the next role is going to be. So definitely on the budget right now. But like in the grand scheme of things, I would say. So I would say. Let me ask you this: how would you rank just getting by and budgeting? Which would?
That's a great question because it can be subjective and it depends on every person. If you're talking to the single mom of 2 with 3 jobs, she's just getting by. She doesn't have any money for an emergency.
Okay.
Most Americans, I don't remember what the percentage is, and we should have looked this up before. We'll look it up. I think like 58 or 59% of Americans could not bounce back from a $400 emergency.
Okay, yeah.
So that's just getting by, living paycheck by paycheck.
Yeah, I will say this. Luckily, I've been fortunate enough that even as I've had the ability, the fortitude to be able to have savings to look at to go several months and really try to decide what I want my next career opportunity.
It's a blessing.
Yeah,
it's a privilege,
opposed to being like, man, I don't know where this. I better get paid next week, and or shit gonna start getting cut off, or I'm about to start losing. Like, I ain't at that point. So like that's been definitely I would say budgeting, not just get by. So budgeting, I would say right now. What about yourself?
I'd agree. I would say budgeting. I think that if I was in this position 10 years ago with what I have saved, I would probably say I'm balling.
Yeah.
But nah, like I call it budgeting.
Okay.
And again, it's all subjective. People who are just getting by would again look at us and maybe be like, y'all are balling, and it's like, well, we could be, but like I don't want to be spending the money that I have saved up. Like I don't want to do that. I say that as I just returned from a trip in Spain. But yeah, I'd definitely say I'm budgeting, and again, it's just amazing of this whole how our mindset changes when we get older and how we understand what budgeting and balling and getting by might look like.
Yep.
So I'd call it budgeting.
Okay, now we're not balling, let's say, and I think this is as we say we're going to make it short this week, a little bit shorter than the last week. So we'll start to wrap up here. So we want to make this a little bit lighthearted. If you were balling, we're going to have, I think, a twofold question here.
Yeah.
First is, if you won the lottery, $100 million, what you doing? What's some of the things?
Oh, man, that's tough. All right, so there's some crazy generational wealth that I'm doing. First and foremost, I'm paying off my house. I'm also going to rent it out, and I'm buying 15 properties.
Okay.
Hands down, 15 properties. Multifamily properties. Yep. Well, I'm not going to manage it because of the money that I have with $100 million. I'm going to have somebody else manage that for sure because that's I'm going to invest the money, obviously, and mind you, no one needs $100 million. But we're just saying, if I am, what good am I going to do with it, right? invest it. I don't know how I'm going to invest it. I'm going to get an actual financial advisor, which I have a financial advisor, but I just don't give him money like that to invest because I don't got money like that. But invest it, figure it out. I'd also like to really invest in like a passion project.
Okay. So we're like owning a small soccer team. What are we doing here?
Possibly go buy Wrexham,
Right,
or go buy a G League team or something. Nah. But that's a good point. Like I'd like to invest in some of like my family's like endeavors. I have a cousin who wants to. She has a dream to open up her own food truck. I would love to invest in that with her.
Yeah.
Or for her, and just hey, make it happen. Like I believe in her type of thing. So like I'd like to do little stuff like that. Got to be careful though. Because with great money comes great responsibility, and then it comes people coming out the woodwork. Hey, you let this person money, what it do?
I got a dream too, Derek. I got a dream too.
Yeah, so it's like one of those things where that'd be tough. But I would definitely set myself and my family, my parents, and any future kids that I might have and their kids up for the future.
All right, all right. Now it goes without saying you're definitely going to do the discipline. What's some fun things? What might you do to run that credit card bill back up now?
Oh man, I'm definitely going to go travel the world. 100%.
Right.
I'm not working anymore. Well, I will work, but I'm not working a serious job, like in the sense of like, oh my God, I need to make money. I'm working jobs that are meaningful to me and stuff like that. But I'm gonna travel the entire world.
All right.
Yo, the minute that I can jump on a Blue Origin or SpaceX flight up to space,
absolutely,
that is commercial, I'm doing that stat right away. I'm gonna be one of them assholes doing that 100%. I need to get to space.
You going to Mars and not coming back?
That's not happening. No, I'm not gonna do that. But maybe I'll go to Mars. I don't know.
I definitely want to go.
I mean, if it's down, I think it might happen in our lifetime where it's commercialized. Yeah, I'm down. Certainly gonna do that. I do want to be charitable, and I want to be intentional with it because there's a lot of rich folks who practice philanthropy, but at the end of the day, they do it for tax purposes, and then they'll go right behind your back and vote for inner city kids to not have school lunches, which is like, what are you doing? You're just virtue signaling at this point. But I would want to be very intentional about donating to just good causes where the money actually does something.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like. I haven't thought about it because I'm never going to win $100 million, but I'd like to do that. But sorry, you were asking what kind of fun things I would do. Yeah, but I'm buying myself a big ass fucking fat ass mansion.
All right.
A mountain house somewhere with a crazy view. Oh, 100%. I'm fucking doing that. I'm gonna have to go like party and ball somewhere and like buy the entire club bottles. Like I'm gonna have to do it.
Okay.
Because at that point, who gives a fuck about a hangover? I don't got shit to do. I got $100 million. Whatever, bro. I'll be out of commission forever. One thing that I will 100% do. I've always wanted to do this, and I don't even need $100 million to do this, but you need a lot of money to do this. Personal chef.
Okay.
You need a personal chef.
I'm with you there.
Personal chef. Yo, make me good food that's healthy. But real good.
Yeah.
And just make it for me.
Okay.
Like, I need you to do that for me. Personal fitness trainer. Like, I'm going to have a gym in my fucking house. Oh, yeah. I'm going to have a straight up full out gym in my house. Like, 100%, dog. 100%. That's me. But that's what I think I'll do 100 minutes. How about you?
Let's see. Definitely, coming from a huge family, like, I always had to, like, I would love to take, like, all my family. Like, yo, we going somewhere. We getting on a private jet. Don't worry about it. All expenses paid.
You need a PJ.
We gonna go somewhere tropical, post up. They walk into their rooms, give them some care bags with spending money, things like that. Like that would be the thing that comes to mind. Like what I would want to do with my family. As far as like definitely if I take $100 million, like I don't need to. I'm make sure I have to have some type of investment to where like I'm not trying to do no work again. So
right.
Losing $100 million is crazy to me. But definitely, I think kind of hit on it. One of my bucket list items is definitely flying on a PJ. So definitely I'll have to check that off.
I mean, you might as well buy a PJ at that point with that much money. God damn.
I might have like the
OVO.
Yeah, I might have the OVO.
The OVO.
So I might have that. But yeah, definitely the PJ. As far as like I have the large house. That's the things I think about doing.
Just one house.
No, come on.
Don't be fucking around, bro.
It's all about location. I gotta have a rent.
But hold on, you're not getting any properties though either.
Oh, absolutely, man.
I'm not talking about properties that you need to live in. I'm talking about properties that like for an investment, assets.
Possibly, I would possibly look at other ways of investing that didn't have to include like properties, but also, you gotta have real estate. Like
you gotta have real estate. That's what I meant. Real estate.
I have that too, but. I just like I say I wouldn't have to be anybody's landlord, but I guess I would have to.
Oh, sorry, I forgot one last thing that we both are gonna need to get.
Yep.
A fucking bunker.
Oh yeah,
we have to get a bunker.
Oh,
Doomsday bunker. That's hands down. We got to go because this shit's happening.
Yeah.
The rich people all doing it. I don't know if y'all seen the movie Leave the World Behind on fucking Netflix.
Yep, good movie.
Get in a fucking bunker.
Get a bunker.
It's happened. $10 million bunker. Yep. Boom. My closest friend's family would be out there. Sorry.
Man, I mean, that might be tough for me. I get that bunker. Talk about closest friends and family. Family might be some friends and family that don't make the list.
That's
y'all
tough.
Gonna be knocking on the door and like.
That's tough.
Gonna have somebody a bouncer out there.
They ain't gonna know. They ain't gonna know where the bounce. They ain't gonna know where the house is. I'm not letting them know.
No, definitely want to have that bunker situation. But yeah, like $100 million, like man, that's kind of really where. Like that, I was like to live like a simple life. Like I don't feel like I'm gonna be like super brash for it. Like it ain't something that I gotta do a whole lot. Like just the freedom of like, all right, I got it, and I would be afraid of giving it away. That'll be my biggest thing. I would hope I didn't give it all away. But other than that, like man.
Okay, so next question. Mm-hmm. How much money do you think you need today to last you the rest of your life? You get one lump sum.
Yeah.
How much do you think you need?
It's so funny.
And why?
It's so
and
funny.
How would you spend it?
Because we were laughing at this, doing some show prep, and the number I had in my head, Derek, we'll find out. But like I was thinking, like in my head, like man, I'm so conceptual. Like that number just kept rising and fluctuating and coming back down and fluctuating as the show has gone on. So, but I would say like the biggest, if I say just a cool guess, 10 million.
That's exactly the number you need. That's my number.
All right.
10 million.
Dang, all right.
Why?
All right.
Why do you say 10 million? Because I have actual facts and reasons and stats why. But
okay, yeah, 5 don't seem like enough right now. Like 5 million. I mean, it 5 would be great, but I don't know if that's going to be enough.
Would it be great? Would it be great?
Well, I was just saying it wouldn't be enough.
5 million would be all right, I guess. I guess I'll take it.
I plan on being here for a while, so if you told me like I only got 10 years, 5 probably get it done. But like considering that we're going into our 40s, if I would hopefully live to see 80, possibly 75 to 80. So you look at another 35, 40 years, like I think you need about.
First of all, 5 would be more than enough. I promise you. It's just about what you want to spend.
I don't know, bro. That first 5 I might have to get rid of again.
I promise you, 5 million would be enough. All right? You just want to act up. That's why.
Absolutely.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay, yo.
So that's why you think 10 million. 10 million because actually that's the number statistically that doesn't increase. Past that number doesn't increase your happiness. Statistically, data speaks that once you make more $10 million, that's the line. Any more than that doesn't make you any happier, doesn't make you feel any better. 10 million is that line.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason I do it. Secondly, technically, to be honest with you, we would only need, if we're again disciplined, and disciplined in like not like oh my god, like discipline, like you still have money, but like probably only need like $3.5 million to be honest with you. But I would do 10 million for that happiness reason right there. That'll end it. I'd put $5 million in a high yield savings account. Mm-hmm. Again, high yield savings account. Yep. That money, $5 million, would make me $220,000 a year.
There we go.
And I would just live off of that.
Yep.
$220,000 a year. Yep. I would just live off of that.
Yeah.
The other $5 million, what am I doing? I am putting $3 million into real estate.
Okay.
Whatever that looks like, because that'll appreciate. And when I say real estate, it's just all on down payments because I'm not going to pay for it at the end of the day. Whoever's renting at the end of the day will be paying for that.
Yeah.
Right? So that's good money spent right there. And the other $2 million, I'll put in an investment in the market in some way, shape, or form. Like, how are we going to invest this? Have a real good financial advisor to make sure that I make really, really good money off of it. But $5 million would be in that high yield savings account because I'll live off of that $220,000 a year.
Man, see, you hear out there, he has facts, statistics. He's coming with, this is why the number is. I'm over here like, conceptually in my head, 10 sounds good.
But you came to the right number, though. You came to the right number.
That's the problem with being, this sometimes is the gift and the curse of being who I am. I ain't even going to say, like, who I am.
Yeah.
Sometimes I look up and shit just happen.
Yeah. This is a fact.
I just fall into it and like, damn, that sounded like that was a solid decision. Like, bro, this was an accident.
I didn't know when you said it. I was like, dude, that is like the perfect number.
See, there we go.
$10 million, man.
This is why we flow well together.
Exactly.
Flow well together. Well,
that was a good thought exercise.
Perfect. Well, I think we got to the last part of the episode. I think every episode we want to do something kind of fun or maybe kind of give a person, express something that either we learned or just someone to give some advice for the end of the episode. So I'll kick it off to you and see what you have first for us.
So I've always known that this was something. Like, I didn't know that it had a name to it. And it was funny because we were talking about it in our last episode when we were talking about the overconfidence of people and athletes and Chad Ochocinco. And I literally learned this term just this year in 2025 by watching some videos. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Okay.
The Dunning-Kruger effect is people overestimating their abilities or their intelligence in some way, shape, or form. People who think they know about stuff that they really don't know that much about. Take example, COVID.
Yeah.
When people swore to God they were fucking doctors and they knew better from the whole perspective, and vice versa. And it's insane. But like that Dunning-Kruger effect is so rampant in this country right now when people are talking about topics that they know nothing about, but they swear to God that they know. And it's super dangerous because that's how misinformation gets spread.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely insane. My point is that the whole time I was just like, oh, it's just people being overconfident and arrogant. But no, the name of it is the Dunning-Kruger effect. Never knew that.
Yeah.
So something really interesting that I learned in 2025. How about you, man?
No, I will say this, and I think we just spoke about it on previous episodes. Like, I'm very passionate about sports, and I grew up running track and field as well. And something I just learned recently was that the world record for the women's mile is 4 minutes and 7 seconds, meaning that no woman has run a sub 4 minute mile. Now, the reason I say that is that if you know anything about sports and the 4 minute mile, there's a huge milestone that Roger Bannister broke in 1954. Ran the first sub 4 minute mile as a human, and previously we thought that was humanly impossible. But the fact that it's 1954 is when the first male ran that, and it's now 2025, and we're still, a female hasn't still broken that barrier. Was just kind of fascinating to me, not in the sense of like that men had that and women haven't, just more so in the fascination that it hadn't happened. And to me, I thought that naturally I would just, if somebody would said that to me, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sure some woman has run a sub 4 minute mile.
Wow.
And the fact that hasn't happened is just kind of mind blowing.
It's mind blowing to me too, because I remember being in college, and when I was in college, we had a male on our track team who ran a 3:59 mile, and it was like all over the fucking news. It was insane. Like, you broke the 4 minute mile, and I assumed, okay, that's college D1. All right, I assumed that a woman would have been broken it as 4 minutes. Now 4:07 is super impressive.
Still
that's
running.
Right there.
You're fine,
that's crazy.
fine.
But like, that's crazy. I would have never thought that.
Yep.
Is there anyone that we should be on the lookout for that might be breaking it soon?
7 seconds in a mile is a lot.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
You're talking about, in a mile, you might be looking at 80 meters, 7 seconds.
Damn.
At the end, even longer possibly, or maybe not 80 meters, maybe like 50 meters. I would say at the end.
And that 7 seconds, Herb just spoke like 75 words.
Exactly.
I was counting in my head. So
see, exactly.
That's insane. I ran a 5 minute 19 second mile. Just a random fact.
Well, Derek
ran
a sub 5 minute mile before the first.
Oh no! This is when I was in my top shape. I can't even crack 7 minutes now. Probably I might, but Jesus Christ,
man.
Well, that's good to know, man.
Man, absolutely. Well, yeah, that's. I think that wraps up another episode here. You did it again.
We thought we were gonna go short. We went right an hour again. Damn, the conversation just flowed today, man.
It just flowed.
I hope y'all learned something, Herb. I appreciate you being here today, brother.
As always.
Thank you so much, man.